Hey, welcome. Okay, today I'm going to go over a technique using Lightroom in which we can go in and create kind of a foggy, misty feeling like this image that you see right here. And it's a pretty interesting and it's a fun technique. And no matter what you're doing in photography, whether you're just photographing for fun or whether you're going to want to sell prints or sell stock photos because you have a business, this is a technique that might allow you to change an image enough that make it more saleable, whether it be a stock photograph or a print or whatever you may be doing with your photography. So in this case, let's go ahead and get started, and I'll show you how I created this image right here. So here is the raw file, and as you can see, it's a little bit contrasty, it's a little overexposed, there's a dust speck and a few things like that. So let me show you what I did to take care of that. We come into the develop module, which is right up here, and now that we're in the develop module, one of the first things I want to do is I want to get rid of my dust speck there. So I'll come over here to the remove tool, come in here, just click on it, gone, and I might as well clean up just a couple more of these other white specks in the road. In fact, let's see if I can get that white line out of the middle there. And wow, it did it. Okay, one there. Okay, I think that's pretty good. So we'll come back over here. Now, what I want to do is I want to bring down all my tonal values to normal. This is just a little bit overexposed. So we'll come in here and we'll bring down the highlights in an attempt to basically darken those down a little bit. Let's turn that on and off. If you just look at that, you can see just caved down just a little bit to recover some of that detail. Now, because this is going to be the area up here that I'm putting in fog, I don't want to darken it down too much because I want to kind of maintain a more natural looking mist or fog feel to the image. So let's see, if I look at my histogram, we're pretty darn good on our tonal values from a black point to a white point in here. So I'm going to say we're pretty well set and ready to go in that department. So I'm going to get rid of this and make it a little bit bigger. So the next thing is we're going to come up to our masks, and I have plenty of things I can choose from here. Today I'm going to choose the linear gradient, and I'm going to come down a good chunk of the way, probably all the way to the bottom of the picture, which moves the mask, the gradated part of the mask. You can see the pinkish red in here. It's going to be denser up here than it is up here. And the first thing I'll do is I'll come into effects, and I will go down about 30 on the texture, the clarity, and come down on the dehaze, which is going to start kind of creating that foggy feel. So the question becomes, how far down do you want to go? Well, let's go ahead and come all the way down and make it nice and foggy. We can always come back and check on that later. Then we can come back up to the tonal value and darken it down just a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to leave everything else there right now, but I'm going to come down to the curve. And one of the things when you think about looking through fog is that you don't necessarily have blacks and whites, or, definitely not black, because there's fog, it mutes it. So I usually come up to about 70, 75 in here, something like that, maybe up a little bit more. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Now, right there, we have kind of a foggy feeling to the photograph. But let's go ahead and go in and darken the whole scene just a little bit more. Coming down. Okay, I'm done with the curve, so I'm going to close that up. We'll come down, and now it's kind of getting a little bit on the gray side, which is okay. Could be, and it's not rainy because it's not showing on the pavement, but it could be one of those dark, foggy, clouds are low kind of a day. So let's come in and just play with a little bit of contrast. Not too much. Maybe darken it down just a hair more with a little bit more contrast. Okay, so I have an image that's kind of looking a little bit muddy, so to speak, and that's okay. We got more to do here. So I'm going to go ahead and come down to get the point color out of there and close all these out. We're going to create another mask. And what I want to do is I want to kind of create something in this area that's going to be brighter, like you're driving down the road and it gets brighter, as you saw in the final photograph. So we're going to do a radial gradient this time, and we're going to kind of come across like this, and maybe even down a little bit, kind of like that. So we'll open up tone, and we're going to go in and we're going to make it a little bit brighter in here. Okay, kind of like that. I don't want it to be too abrupt, so we go ahead and feather it a little bit just to see what, okay, see, I don't want it too sharp. I want it very, very soft gradation. So that allows me to go ahead and brighten it up a little bit more. And we can feather it even more. Not too much. Right about in there, just to make it a little bit brighter. Now let's go back to this mask down here, and we're going to go ahead and darken this down even a little bit more. Click on tone, come down a little more in the outside areas, probably about right in there. So you can see now what we have is some graduation between darker outside edges, a little bit brighter in here. We're going to come back to this mask and maybe come down just a little bit on the brightness. Okay, now I'm going to do another mask, and I'm going to also create a radial. And we're going to kind of come in here, sort of about like that. Now, I want to make this a little bit bigger with a little bit less feathering. So we're going to do that. Now we're going to come back in, and we're going to brighten this up a little bit more. And let's go back to the mask. Make this a little bit bigger. Come out to the sides a little bit more and graduate it. A little bit more like that. All right, so let's see, we'll go ahead and the amount is, we'll go down a little bit so it's not too bright. And that's looking pretty good. So let's go ahead, we'll click on the edit section, which takes us out of the masking mode and allows us to come in and look at what we have overall without the lines and that type of thing. So this is looking pretty good. And kind of what I wanted to do, but not quite there. I want more mood. So I want the outside of the image to be a little darker. Let's go ahead and do a global adjustment, darkening here a little bit. Kind of like that. Yeah, maybe right about in there. I'm going to brighten up the shadows just a little bit up there, even though there's not a lot of contrast. Okay, so we're getting closer to where I want to be. So now what I want to do is, I'm okay with my outside edges. I might come in and punch a little contrast in there just to see what we can get. And then we're going to go back to the mask and we're going to try to balance them out a little bit more. So I'm going to go back to the masking tool right there. I'm going to my broad one, and I'm going to come down on the feathering a little bit more. And what that's doing is that's just reducing the effect, the fog effect, to maybe be a little bit less fog overall. Now, one of the things I think is really important about doing this type of work is you're just going to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until you get it just to taste the way you really want it to look. So I'm coming back and reducing the impact of the fog effect here a little bit. And coming down about right there on the exposure. So what I'm doing is I'm reducing the impact of the foggy mask more than I am the exposure, but it's having an effect on exposure. So we're going to come right about there. Now we're going to come up to this one. And I'm going to go in and brighten this up a little bit more. Again, I want to create that light at the end of the tunnel type of a feel. So we're going to go back to this one, and I'm going to brighten it up just a little bit more, but not too much. I want it to look like a normal exposure, not like a blown out highlight like these leaves over here were in the first place. So we'll play with the feathering here a little bit. I might keep it a little bit brighter like that. So I'm going to come back down to this mask, And I'm doing what I would have been doing, and that is try to go in and create a more lighting contrast, so to speak, darker and brighter areas. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out of the mask mode, and I'm going to come in here and drop the exposure down even more. So this is maintaining the fog effect. It's doing a global darkening of the whole image. So maybe we'll stop right about there. I still got detail up here, but it's foggy detail. Now, back over to the masks. We'll go with the global and see where we are at. I'm going to go up and down. I'm at 72, so I'm going to remember that. And come in and see what kind of effect I can get. Well, I'm getting more fog that's gray. So I'll leave the feathering right about, again, I was at about 70, so I'm going to come back down to maybe right in there, about 80. Okay, but let's go in and brighten up that glowing area. And a little bit brighter. No, too much. In fact, I think I want a little more fog coming in. So maybe right about 95. Now, back again to the exposure. All right, now we're brightening it up, but we have a more foggy effect. And see what's happening up here? This is getting a little bit more detail, which is good. There's not, nobody's going to be really looking up there. I just don't want to lose it all by forcing things to go too dark. So let's see. We'll come back in and check the contrast. Come down. All right, so far it's looking pretty good. And the exposure is pretty much just normal. So coming down just a little bit. Okay. Not bad. But I kind of like it right about there. So we're at maybe right about in there. Okay, we're going to come back up to here. And brighten that up a little bit. Keep an eye on what's going on with the brightness. Okay, we've been about 88 was the last adjustment, so I'm going to come down a little bit. Part of the reason that I want to be careful what I'm doing here is I want the transition from this tone to this tone to this tone to be very gradual, so that it looks like it's gradated the whole way, like, gradation or a gradation tool created the effect. And so I want to just kind of be careful with that. Now we'll come back in. Okay, we're getting closer to what I want to do, what I want it to look like, the final image. I'm going to go down on the darkness again a little bit. Okay, I think I've created the effect I want. Now, here is another step that I consider doing a lot of times, and that is coming down and lowering the color, adding a little bit blue in the foreground / shadow area a little bit. And again, this is a global cooling off. Let's go back to the mask. Let's go with our global, or most of the image, and let's go in to the color here and start going down maybe about 15, 20. Okay, let's see if that did anything. Yeah, it did cool it down a little bit. Let's go down a little bit more, maybe to 25-ish. Right there. Okay, then in here, we'll go up to about 25-ish as well. Okay, let's look at that. Okay, you can see that it's cooled it down a fair amount. So we gave it a little bit of bluish. Now, that was on the global mask. Let's go up to this broader one. And we're going to come in here and we're going to warm it up a little bit by maybe about 25 as well. That's about what we cooled it down. Okay. And then up on the 25 here. Close to 25. Okay, so let's turn that on and off. And that certainly makes that mask area warm up a little bit, which is going to help with that perception of people, or, you know, the eye going through the photograph, not only to a brighter area, but to a more colorful area. Okay, I went up to 35 on the color for that as well. And I'm going to come in and bump up the saturation just a little bit. All right, let's go ahead and go up to the other mask, and we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to go up to, I think I did about 30, 32. We're going to go up here, 30, 32, roughly. Okay, then we're going to give it a little bit more saturation. Just bump that up a little bit, maybe to about 20. Okay, this is our global image. I'll come back over here, and not bad. Okay, a little brighter up ahead, like the sun was shining up there, squeaking into the forest and lighting up this area, and then it falls off to be a little bit darker. So I'm coming back in, and I'm going to darken the overall image again, just to see what kind of mood I might have created. Yeah, right there. I really like that a lot. Now, probably my only complaint is this might look a little bit too bright, but I'm not sure. Let's go back up, click on our mask panel again, click on this one, and feather it. Now, feathering's fine. Exposure, maybe down just a hair. Okay, back over here. Okay. I've created kind of a misty, foggy feeling to this overall scene, and I think it looks quite good. And so you can see how you can do this in Lightroom using the dehaze tools, and which creates kind of that foggy feeling. And if you were to use minus clarity, you're going to start getting kind of a blurry type of a feel to it, or a glow type of an effect. So I think this looks pretty darn good for what we're trying to do. So that looks pretty good. Now, like I said earlier, you know, a lot of doing this is doing what you think looks great and leaving for a while. Don't come back for a day or a couple days or something like that, because then you're going to look at, oh, no, that's not what I wanted. So but I want to show you another version of this I did a while ago that I also think good. And this is what I call my foggy version. When you're looking at the global adjustments here, highlights are all the way down, shadows untouched, whites are all the way down, blacks are down just a little bit, and then let's see, tonal curve. Nope, I didn't touch that on here, on the global part of it, I should say. And so, you know, I think this looks really good. But now let's come over here and look at the mask. So we'll start with the global mask, and I've got it down a little bit further. So this would be the midpoint on it, which makes this a little bit foggier up here. So we're at 86 on the preset mask adjustment, and we're at 91 on exposure, darkening it. And then at the saturation, I'm down 33. Curves, we did this right here. It's at about 50. Now let's see, where is it exactly here? Okay, whoops, didn't mean to do that. Control Z. Okay, so it's only down about 50 instead of 68. And the effects, which is the dehaze and stuff, is down 51, minus 19, minus. So again, it's not tremendously different. It's just that I allowed the fog to show a little bit more. So now it becomes a matter of choice. Which one do you like better? This one's got more color, brighter. So I would call this misty. This is foggier. And probably I like this a lot better. So anyway, I hope that gives you an idea about how to create a foggy, misty feel in Lightroom. And you do it with masks. You do it with the texture, clarity, and dehaze sliders by giving them a little bit of a minus adjustment. And then with the different masks, again, one for the overall misty, foggy feel, then selecting this area up here. See, I went even wider than I did in the other image. And then, again, this one right here. Playing with the adjustments to get them to just kind of balance out and create an effect. So I hope you enjoyed that. We'll see you in another video. Hey, thanks for watching New Photography School. Be sure and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our upcoming tutorials. Keep shooting.